What cheerful subject are we going to look at today? This one's come by request, and it is one of my favourite things in the world: rejection. What's here is good, what's here is kind, what's here has your best interest in mind. Rhymes. So that's a great thing to remember. I think it's true as well. I actually really believe that. All of my explorations and studies have led me back to this point again and again and again, even when it seems like that isn't the case. It's a hard sell, actually. It's very hard to justify that sometimes. What's the timeline for that? How does it feel to be rejected? I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. This person has decided that I don't meet the criteria. The shame or the pain or the unworthiness that I feel from this person's words and this person's actions, my want to connect with this person. They look at me, they see what's going on, or maybe they see the version that I've put out of what's going on, and they decide this isn't right for them. That's very painful. We don't like rejection. We don't like being rejected at all, because it really pulls at those young heartstrings, that sense of, oh, I'm not good enough. And if I'm not good enough, there is a real danger. I mean, there was at one point, right? If you weren't good enough in the parental hierarchical relationship like that, not being good enough could limit your access to certain resources, or maybe you're not going to get the love that you wanted or the love that you needed or something like that. So we're constantly on the lookout for how we appear in other people's minds. And the video on tapping for what other people think is also a good complement to this. We want to have people think well of us and have people not reject us, because what does it mean to us if they reject us? This is really the key distinction. What does it mean to us that this person has rejected us? Because on a very real level, this person has every right to decide what is a good fit for them, and that's what they should be doing, right? And that's what we should be doing. Like, is it a good fit? And this is where you really start to work through this childhood trauma to meet more as equals rather than this hierarchical. I'm going to project my parent onto this person, and when they reject me, my whole world falls apart. That's not to say that it's wrong to feel that, or that doesn't happen. You know, when you're in a long relationship with somebody and you've become intertwined in each other's lives so deeply, and there are so many cords and threads between you, that if that person then decides that they don't want something to do with you, then there is a whole lot of grief. It's like, but I've taken this person on as part of me, and now a part of me has gone away. And that's really what it feels like, because our brain does perceive the things in our environment and the people we're connected to as parts of us. Apparently, it's like if I lost an arm, well, I'm going to feel grief, I'm going to feel sadness, and my body is going to want to shut down to temper that kind of pain. Or maybe it's going to want to mobilize to fight, or maybe it's going to want to try to get away. These are all legitimate responses. Typically, when we get rejected, the feeling tends to be more a kind of a closed, our language can reflect this. Language is really important. Like, the way that you language your experience is really key here, because language has the ability to create all kinds of emotional responses. We'll say, for instance, the experience of rejection. So this is one of Robert Glover's examples. She shot me down. Of course, your heart, your unconscious is going to mobilize to this threat. That must hurt. I better generate some pain. Whereas if it's just, well, she said no. Okay, she said no. Well, what's the context I can put that in? Does that mean that I am worthless and unlovable and I'm never going to find anything again? Or is that just my system shutting down? I'm propagating these thoughts and I'm kind of clutching on or resisting these thoughts, which then obviously the more you resist something, the more it kind of spreads this reality. Maybe it just means that this isn't a good fit for that person, and that's okay. You know, I want to be able to grieve and move on and have my feelings, and that can tell me how much I cared. So we're going to have a little look at rejection today and see if we can't find our way through some of this terrain, bring our system back to a settled level, and let saner heads prevail. Let some of the thoughts that we're having about this situation meet the ground and settle into that broad peripheral sense of, actually, this is okay. So let's start. Belly, chest. Notice where you are today. Notice what kind of energy you're bringing into this session. Notice how it feels to be in your body right now. Like, what's the sensation? Do you have a looming sense of threat somewhere lodged in your system? Does it manifest up here as like a quickened urgency response, or is it somewhere a little bit more down here as like a lethargic shutdown, never going to happen, can't do it, won't do it, this kind of a response? Notice what's going on up in the mind as well, in the brain, what kind of thoughts you might be having. What's the point? Shutdown flavored thoughts, or I need to do something right now, urgency flavored fight flight thoughts. And when you're ready, we'll start tapping around the collarbone. All this shame and pain. I got rejected. And I feel all this pain. All this pain of rejection. And quite possibly some shame about it too. But a lot of pain and a lot of sadness. A lot of feelings of distress. My nervous system feels so lonely and so tired. It's like a part of me has disappeared. And everything feels chaotic. I don't know how to get my bearings here. I just hate feeling rejected. I hate this rejection. I really hate feeling this way. God, it sucks so much. Being rejected brings to the surface all this sadness, all this wounding, all this shame and pain, all these feelings of unworthiness, really deep, dark feelings. Because what if that person's right? What if they're right to reject me? What if they rejected me because I am worthless? And what if they're right about that? So these are all the ideas that propagate my mind when my nervous system's having this kind of a response. These ideas feel really potent. And they feel really strong. They feel really convincing. Or maybe it's just sadness. Maybe it's just grief. Maybe I just need to take some time to feel really sad about this. Because I had this expectation that I projected into the future. That things could have been really great. I'd already started to envision it, maybe unconsciously. And now I have to break up with that expectation. The truth is that I never had a future like that. That was just something in my mind. And something that I really wanted. Something that I thought could deliver me all these really wonderful feelings. Something that could save me from the present moment. Some glorious imagined future. While I was off fantasizing about that, I forgot myself in this moment. I left myself here. And I wasn't connected with where I am right now. I was connected with that future fantasy. And it felt really good to pretend to be there. And now that's gone. And I have to break up with that idea. That feels really painful. That feels really painful. And I want to have all the empathy in the world for the parts of my system going through that. All these feelings of low self-worth. All these really uncomfortable feelings right here, right now. Maybe the connection that I seek, I can find with them right here. And maybe I can expand my capacity by relaxing and connecting with my own body right here, right now, as best I'm able, albeit completely imperfectly. Maybe this can start to give me the connection that I've been seeking. I'm willing to let go of my fantasy that something could save me from the present. I'm willing to let go of the fantasy that that future was real. And I might have all of these needs to be accepted and approved of by these particular people or this particular person. And thinking about being rejected by them is a really painful idea. Because when I get rejected by them, a part of me actually rejects myself. A part of me says no to me. I don't have the empathy that I might need in those situations to be able to hold myself while I'm in pain. To say yes to myself. To say yes to the present moment. To even say thank you to the present moment. For helping me notice what's not for me. And how do I know it's not for me? Because it said no. It decided it wanted something else. And maybe that's okay. Even if it's not okay right now. Maybe it could be okay in time. Maybe it's not a reflection of my worth. Maybe it's not a reflection of my insecurities. Although it's certainly pointing them out, which feels uncomfortable and annoying and painful. And there's a lot of sadness there as well, and a lot of grief. It's quite difficult to deal with. But I would really like to trust that what is for me will be able to find me. And maybe there's an opportunity here to find what I felt was missing. To really sit with myself and spend time with myself and offer myself the connection I've needed in the areas I've been dependent on others. Maybe sitting with myself and resolving to myself that I'm committed to finding love for myself in these areas. And it doesn't have to come from outside. I would love to imagine a future where someone could reject me and I could feel completely okay. No sense of loss, but almost a sense of love, that they're doing what's right for them. And I'm happy about that. I'm happy that they're living their life in accordance with what's right for them. And I really want to offer my appreciation to that. Because I want the permission to do the same myself. I want to afford myself that opportunity to live in accordance with what's right for me. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm always going to get what I want. Just like the Rolling Stones said, if I try sometimes, I might find I get what I need. And so what if I needed this right here, right now? And what if this was a doorway? And in order to notice it, all I had to do was adjust my perception. Was to connect with all this survival stress. Connect with myself deeply. With the kind of unconditional acceptance that I've always dreamed of. And so I might take a moment right here just to imagine what that would be like. What would it be like to be unconditionally accepted, even in these moments of pain? To be unconditionally loved, even when I feel worthless. How would love respond here? Maybe love would say, I completely accept you as you are. If you want to feel worthless, if you want to feel ashamed, I'm completely here for that. If you feel sad, I accept you as you are. If you're going through rejection and all of the pain that that entails, I'm completely here for that. I'm going to love you regardless. That doesn't mean I'm going to fix you and deprive you of your pain, because you're not broken. You're not defunct. You're just having an experience. And that experience might be really painful. And so I'd invite you to sit with that pain and breathe with it and respect it and acknowledge it and let it teach you what it needs from you, how best you can show up for it, how best you can connect with it, and how best you can stretch to meet it exactly where it's at, with all of this warmth, with all of this acceptance, with all of this love, with all of this connection. Because that's the thing that I feared most anyway. That if I was going to get rejected, all of those things were going to go away. And it might be that I really, really want this person to do it. And at the same time, because I do care for this person, I do want them to have what they want. And maybe in this moment, I might not be a good fit for that. Which is also okay. Because I actually want to be with somebody that wants to be with me. And there's that expression that if I can't be in a relationship that lets me be all of who I am, then I'd rather be alone. And I think what that means is I have a deep need for authenticity. And I have a deep need to be exactly myself. And I'm moving away from the security that I needed in childhood, where I had to filter bits of myself in order to get my need for love met, into something that looks more like authenticity, where I can be exactly who I am. And let the people who vibe with that find me organically. So I'm going to make authenticity my priority. That can be my most important thing. And not everybody is going to like that. And it's not going to be a good fit for everybody. But that's okay. I don't want to force them to change themselves to be a good fit for me. Because I wouldn't want to do that myself. I wouldn't want to force and change myself in order to be a good fit for someone else. That's what real self-abandonment looks like. And there may still be areas in my life where I'm doing that. And that's okay. I'm not going to beat myself up about that. I'm on the right path. I'm going to give myself a little grace and a little leeway. And take a moment right here just to stop and trust exactly what's going on, because that's my best option. And as I start to trust it, as I start to trust the feelings in my body, not get hypnotized by the thoughts, that's when I can start to see things that might not have been obvious to me before. And so I'm willing to let go of all this pain. Willing to let go of this survival stress. Willing to let my body naturally restore itself. And let go of its grief. Bit by bit. No rush. It's just a feeling. It's not a dangerous feeling. There's no real threat here. Even though my system is telling me otherwise, I can sit with it gently and let it express itself, while also noticing that if I've spent the last 20 minutes doing this, at least right now, I'm safe. And that's okay. Willing to be with myself, even in the discomfort. I'm not willing to abandon all these parts of myself that I might have felt like I had to before. It's okay that I'm going through this. It's okay for me to feel my feelings. I might be tougher than I think. But I might be able to handle even this, as painful as it feels right now. I'm willing to let it go. And I'm willing to let it pass. Ooh. Right. See how you feel. See what you notice, if there's a difference in your body, this feeling of rejection when you think about rejection. It could be that not all of that survival stress has left the system. That's completely fine. You just keep doing this intermittently and repeating. And if you want to ad-lib or take any words that feel like a better fit for you, you can also do that. Really, the idea is to let the body sound itself out through thought. Let the body express itself and find the exact right words that can help you navigate through this, what feels like a chaotic terrain. It's like when you're rejected, it feels like you kind of have this idea in your mind of what you thought was going to happen, and suddenly all of that gets thrown into chaos, and it can feel very, very discombobulating. And so when you're in chaos, you just wait. You don't try to move from that energy, and you don't try to react to that energy. It's actually a case of sitting back, opening yourself up a little bit wider, getting a bit soft, getting a bit loose, and just letting that chaos move through the system. Because if you try to tighten up and tense up around it, which we do all the time with our bodies, that's when it's going to start to cause problems. It's like a charge that wants to move through you, these feelings, and we have to get into the body to let that somatic expression start to help things move through a little bit better, and then you'll notice the quality of the thoughts change. It's also good to be able to work your way through on the level of thought, letting yourself think these things that feel scary, because a lot of times what happens is the ambiguity that feels scary. It's like, what's the thing that I'm trying to avoid thinking because I'm afraid of how that might feel? And when you turn towards it and say, well, I'm going to go there and think that, it doesn't mean that it's true just because it's there, just because I've thought it. You tend to believe a thought just because you've had it. It's like there's an electrical impulse in your brain that's made a sound, that's structured itself into a word and then potentially a sentence. And that thought comes along, and because it's appeared in your head, it feels true. And it's like, that's kind of insane. You didn't believe the thoughts that are in other people's heads. So why would this one be more true. And what you find with thought in general is that it's constantly trying to structure an experience, but just because it structures it one way, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the truth. It might feel like your unconscious wants to gravitate towards that because that's stability, like that's the story you've always told. Oh, I'm worthless and horrible and stupid, and if I can make myself small and non-threatening, then my parents are going to accept me maybe, or somebody's going to accept me. And so that response, that shutdown response, is basically saying, hey, I'm afraid and I need to feel safe. Can you spend some time with me? And that's what we do in these videos. We just come to spend time with it and let them express themselves in the same way that you might let a child just kind of run itself through all of these different things until it finds this natural conclusion. So I hope that was useful for you. I hope that gives you some insight into some of the inner workings of what's going on. Do feel free to comment and share and whatever it is that you do with these videos. And if you need to do them again, then that can be very useful. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.